who
Right.
Mike is and why he got banned.
Yeah.
So Dean is a liberal TikTok debate guy.
Yeah.
And apparently, in the past, not that long ago, as a matter of fact, only a couple of years ago, he was like a MAGA guy, and I think he got canceled for, or he got called out for saying slurs back in the day. Right? Is that?
Yeah.
Am I getting? Because I'm unfortunately not very tapped into everything that's going on. But he's the guy who always on TikTok with the rest of the TikTok debate guys will debate Trump supporters, and he'll be like,
Yeah.
"Why did you vote for Trump?" And I personally think that's unproductive, and I've tried to communicate that to him, and with the hopes that he will move away from that and move away from liberalism in general, and have a more well defined worldview. But I also think it's partially because he's young too.
Yeah. And my frustration with that is not necessarily with your perspective of trying to do outreach to Dean, because he is a young person, um, but more of frustration with the idea that for a lot of young white people, they can have that experience and they can have this radical shift in their perspective, and they are oftentimes elevated to the point of the leader in the left space. When it comes to marginalized people talking about their own perspectives, they are kind of like ejected from the space, being like, you know, I hear what you're saying or whatever, but like we're also doing this thing right now, and that's where my frustration with that came from. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so, because I agree with your perspective of doing outreach and talking to people and getting in spaces where the left usually isn't in. I think you do that very well. The issue with that oftentimes comes is when they're like the people that are brought in are oftentimes elevated to the space of like the leaders in the left, while like marginalized people are still talking amongst or trying to talk about their issues and their perspectives,
Well, I don't think
and they're not
he's
taken as
he's
seriously.
on the left at all. To be fair,
Yeah,
like I mean, I don't even think this person is on. I would like for him to be, but I think that there would be a lot of growth for that to happen, regardless.
I agree. The issue being is that I mean, he's still a popular voice. So I think it goes deeper than this is like I'm just describing like white supremacy at this point. Like him being a voice even in like liberal spaces when there aren't necessarily voices of like black voices in those spaces to the same degree.
Yeah,
Like Harry Sisson, going on like Adam Friendly's podcast or getting invited to the White House or talking all the opportunities that he has. There are like black liberals who are in similar circles, but they're also still not taken as seriously as Harry Sisson is because Harry
yeah.
Sisson is a young white man. And so there is just a difference in experience when marginalized people share their perspectives, even in liberal spaces, but that extends also into like leftist spaces as well. And so
I agree.
during that situation, there were members of the chat who were when I had that critique, who were saying that I was a wrecker, that I was a liberal, that I was opposed to change. There were some people who were saying that I was joining like Ethan Klein's hate brigade for even levying the complaint in the first place. And so I was just like, it's kind of weird because I've been in this community for so long that I thought that I would be receiving a little bit of grace and a little bit of charitability
One
when I
hundred
levy a
percent.
critique that like, I'm not immediately ejected being like, "Oh, I'm actually a wrecker. I'm not a part of this space."
No,
And so I think
I completely agree with you. I think that uh, it goes both ways, and it should be more charity extended to someone like yourself and your complaints, rather than more charity extended to someone who, in the past, or even continues to actually demonstrate that they're like a leftist or a progressive, but just because they resemble the same background as a person or the same life experiences that like a white person has had. I think that's where it comes from. Like there are a lot of people in this community that are fairly progressive, but I think that they weren't necessarily fairly progressive in the past. So when they see someone when they see someone who has been racist in the past, they see themselves in that person. So they're
yeah.
way more inclined to listen to their complaints than to listen to your complaints. And that is, you're not wrong when you say that that does come from a place of, I mean, there is definitely a blind spot that people have there towards a black content creator in this community that's like experiencing something or making valid concerns.
Yeah.
My attitude on this, and I've told you this before. I mean, you know this. You've heard me speak on this probably. Is that there will be people in this community that literally are fucking straight up Nazis, even, right? And obviously, as long as they don't, say Nazi shit in the chat, they're welcome to listen and hopefully be convinced and hopefully have their minds changed. And I'm using the most extreme example of this right now.
Mhm.
Obviously, that's not the case for many people. But given that we do live in a white supremacist country and anti-blackness is foundational, and it is exhibited in every orifice of modern society, that and also because of my own personal privilege as well, I am way more, like, I have way higher tolerance for that kind of thing
Yeah.
than someone who is a black would in that situation, because like you're experiencing anti-blackness every single day of your life, and it has shaped your life in a very meaningful way. But that's what I always try to stress to people, is that when I talk about trans issues, when I talk about black issues, when I talk about undocumented migrants, the goal there is to get people in the margins on our side, and they're not going to come to our side on every single front immediately. But I think through time, people become more understanding and change their minds. So it's
Yeah.
not a
I think
completely safe space.
yeah, and I understand that. Um, I think a part of the problem is the fact that some of the people, when they do come in, a lot of people in chat think that their learning is done. They think that they've arrived at the leftist position. They've heard
Oh
everything we're
yeah.
saying, and they're like, "Okay, we got it. We're here." 'Cause I feel like a lot of those people have came into my chat when I love these critiques the last 2 days, and are saying, "You actually don't understand this. This is actually what was going on here." Trying to explain to me like the foundations of like white supremacy and why I'm incorrect for explaining the core tenets of it and how it manifests itself in leftist spaces. And so I think people uh, who listen to you and understand your perspective will then turn around and be like, I'm not going to go any further. I'm not going to do any more reading. I know people like other people on like leftier than this space have had that critique as well. But when it comes to talking about black issues and the black experience, when black people are talking about, hey, this is what my experience is, and this is what I'm seeing in this space, they think, well, I'm already done learning and I'm a leftist. So therefore, you must be wrong when talking about your experience.
Uh
And I
huh.
think that's coming out of some chatters when they are, especially like when they start, like when they call me a liberal. 'Cause this is the thing that like that really irks my brain. Because our chatters who will position it as like Sean's a liberal, he's doing identity politics when he talks about black issues from like long term community subs, and that's that hurts my feelings a little bit because I've been in this community for so long. I thought that people would
Yeah.
understand my perspective and what I'm saying, and that I try my best to not exhibit, like liberal tendencies. Um, but like I feel like I'm being put in this box of like, oh, if you critique this space because this is a leftist space, you must be a liberal because you're not 100% on board with everything that's being said here, and therefore we don't have to, regard any criticism that you have as serious because of that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Um, I also I also don't think that, like, everyone is always going to agree 100% either. Like, we can have reasonable disagreements on certain things, you know what I mean? Or place emphasis on certain things more so than others. Like, that's a normal and healthy part of discourse, and normal and healthy part of like coalition building as well. And I think people need to stop being hostile. And also on top of that, they shouldn't wait for me to pull someone like yourself up on the chat to arrive at that conclusion either. Like, they should be adults about it on their own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is something that Caroline talked about in the clip. I don't know if you saw the full Caroline clip, but Caroline talked about it in the clip with like the Lolo situation, where like she was calling out some of the chatters who were being parasocial towards Lolo and only changed their mind when 'cause I don't want to call it specific chatters here, but like there was a chatter online or a Twitter user online who like changed their bios like low overruled defender and was attacking the victims until you said something about it, and then they were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do this." There are people who like I adhere like so closely due to the parasocial nature to what you say that they won't craft up an opinion of their own, and then they will go out to like other spaces, Twitter, Reddit, what have you, and act on like I'm doing Hassan's will by calling people the woke of the day in this other space that is separate from Hassan. And I think a lot of chatters see that, which is why a lot of chatters are so repulsed by the idea of like woke of the day. Even though I understand, I understand what's being said with woke of the day, and I get what it means. The way that it's utilized outside of the space is so far from the intent, what it was actually used for, that when they hear it in this space, they're like, okay, this is bad. This is not good. I don't like this.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. I'm I don't know what more I can do to make sure that people are not, I guess, like defending people parasocially and only changing their perspectives after they hear my take on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what there is to do. I don't think it's why uh part of the reason why I didn't necessarily think this conversation needed to be had, because like we agree on pretty much everything. Uh, I share your perspective on a lot of things, and I think that some chatters like were utilizing my words to try to get my point across, not in the best way. Um, but also some people also just imagine that when I was talking that I had a disagreement with you, even though we've spoken about some of these things before. I understand what you do for the left. I understand why it's important. It
Mm-hmm.
shaped a lot of what I do and what I try to advocate for as well. Um, and so I think my overarching point is to not treat, you know, good faith critique, because there's a lot of bad faith, but not treat good faith critique as though they are like foundational disagreements that we need to stamp out because they're like, liberal, or that they're, uh, not real or something like that. Because we do have a lot of agreements.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's like I love FD Signifier, for example, but there are disagreements that I have with him, both in private or in public as well. And ultimately, I would never let that get in the way of like because it's not like foundational. It's not like we're not having disagreements on anything that is outside of like methods, for example, or even
Hmm.
like bad empanada.
Yeah.
There are there is plenty of disagreements that I have with Bad Empanada in the way that he conducts himself, but I don't even spend much time just like talking to him and criticizing him on any of those things as well, because like I ultimately am of the mindset that like we are like I believe, especially on the issue of Israel, that like he wants the apartheid to end. He wants
Yeah.
what's best for the Palestinian people. And the same goes for a litany of different issues that we have here in terms of organizing in America as an American left. And I also do recognize that there are plenty of blind spots in terms of organizing in black spaces in general for the left.
Yeah.
So I think
I think
you're
that was
right.
a
I think that we need. I think that like I've talked about this before, especially with like the Zoran stuff, because there are
yeah.
plenty of young black leftists out there, and there are plenty more that could potentially become young black leftists, right? Who are
Yeah.
just like kind of rudderless and have checked out of politics altogether. And I think that's an environment that we need to tap into, and it's not going to happen if it's like if we're pushing away people, if we're being off putting.
Yeah, especially when, you were like you're trying to do outreach in those spaces. I think, FT's video speaks to that specifically about just there's a very clear, conclusion or thesis for that video was just talk to Black people, get their experience, understand what they experience, and then speak to that experience as well.
Yeah,
Um, so I was talking about this in the clip, from a few days ago, and that is we've shaped the media ecosystem around how do we attract straight white men? Straight white men are going right. How do we stop that from happening? How do we engage with those men? And we've radically shifted the media ecosystem around young politics around those men specifically. Why can we not do the same thing for Black people as a whole, as in general? Why can we not speak to their issues? Because it seems like the Democratic Party, for some reason, has a way of doing so. They have a stranglehold on the Black community, and they can speak to Black issues. What are we doing when it comes to the Bernie Sanders of the world? How are we feeling when we're doing outreach with those people to attract those people into our spaces? I think part of it is that the spaces are already overwhelmingly white, which means that it already inherently is off-putting towards Black people who want to see themselves in the spaces that they occupy. And the second part of it is I think when it comes to getting the Black perspective, I think people oftentimes fail. I think Bernie Sanders didn't do as well as he probably could have in that regard. I think Zohran Mamdani is doing a lot better than Bernie Sanders is doing, and which is why he's succeeding a lot more when it comes to like young Black voters.
Yeah. No, well, I think that the reason why both Bernie and Zohran Mamdani are more appealing to young Black voters goes beyond representational politics, though. I think it's just more so like the turnout machine, older voting demographics, and their tendency to be more conservative or more safe in terms of like their voting patterns. At least something that I've seen. Like, channel Hasanabi Archive is taking all the views. It's a shame that it's thriving and it has more views than your main. I don't think you're right about that. We've been posting a lot more videos on the main channel, and the main YouTube channel has gotten more views, more monthly views overall than it ever has before. But you're right about the archive bot channels; they are a burden for sure. Anyway, let's get back to Minus Touch.
By tariffs. Ford just reported a net loss of $29 million last quarter, compared with $1.8 billion in net income just 1 year ago, after they were hit by more than $800 million from Trump's tariffs. This is despite the fact that Ford manufactures most of its vehicles in the United States, because the company relies on parts imported from outside of the country. Plus, they were also hit hard by the new Trump taxes on steel and aluminum. The company said that tariffs are expected to cut about $2 billion from its annual earnings. Executives say that they are pressing the Trump administration to lower taxes on parts and materials that they need to survive. We're going to keep on following all the news, so spread the word, follow along, and add the Midas Touch podcast for more.
President Trump demanding that major drug makers lower the prices. That
The archive channel is
I think
500K
you're getting-
views on your Jubilee reaction. Jesus Christ. That's crazy. Okay, maybe they are cooking me a little bit. Holy fuck. This is a bot channel, man. It's crazy that a fucking AI edited AI bot channel. Oh my God, they've already. Hassan's incredible interview with NPR. This Kamala Harris book makes no sense. Check their lives. Clankers.
they charge Americans in the next 60 days. In a series of letters sent yesterday, the president told companies to
Honestly, I can't even tell you like exactly how this started, and I think people are just very heated,
Uh-huh.
just in general because it's Twitch, so it gets like that.
Yeah.
But I can explain what my perspective is and what I've been talking about. Um, so like people aren't confused and people aren't saying, this is what I believe when it's not what I actually believe.
Yeah.
Like I guess I can start with kind of the overall issues that I think people are seeing with the chat. I can speak to like what my experience on that has been as well. And it's about just frustrations about the space being overwhelmingly white, as all spaces tend to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that leading to chatters not necessarily listening to marginalized people when they have issues. And so this kind of came to a head with like the Lolo situation. That's kind of how it started, where people were being like, oh, the chatters were like reflexively defending Lolo. and yelling at and accosting the victims while
Uh-huh.
like just like off of reflex.
I
Which is not a,
I didn't see any of this because I don't have Twitter on my phone, which is a
yeah,
great thing for me at least.
yeah. I also don't. I don't. This is not like about like you specifically. I don't blame you for like really any of this. It's just a more of a chat focused conversation, the way the communities operate. So what happened with the Lowell situation, and then when Mike got banned, there were people who were kind of weaponizing or coming after or attacking marginalized people that did have an issue with what Mike was saying. Um, I'd say that there probably were people who were going, probably harder on Mike than I probably would have. But they were coming at Mike or coming at the people who were saying, "Hey, what Mike is saying was unacceptable." And it kind of feels like it kind of led to this culture of if you're a marginalized person and you're speaking up about something that upsets you in the space, then you will be kind of ejected from the space because you're not like playing ball. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that I felt that I've seen from my perspective. I know we talked about the dean stuff a while ago,
Yeah.
where we didn't have an agreement on that, and that's fine. But the
Wait,
way
let's reflect on that though for people who have no idea because there's people in here that don't know even